Welcome back, friends. I'm Rogue, and today's video is gonna be a little different. Actually, it's gonna be a lot different. Today, I just want to talk about Baldur's Gate 3 and some of the aspects that I'm really excited about. Talking about the game, my opinion, and basically just oogle what Larian Studios has created and promised concerning the game's release. Also, I do want to preface this with, I'm just recording and talking, so this is going to be way less formal or professional than my other BG3 videos. So I'm sorry if this is a bit more nerdy and off the cuff. Right off the bangle, can we just sit back for a second and thank the maker that in 2023, we're going to give a developer money and get a full fucking game, not some stupid live service or season pass, no pay to win bullshit or microtransactions or surprise mechanics. Just hand over my money and get a box with a game in it. A full game in a box, did you hear me? Man, that feels good. Okay, I got that off my chest. Let's talk about the game. I want to start with the size of the game. Larian is coming out swinging. 174 hours of cinematic content. That's like watching all 11 Star Wars movies almost 7 times each. Now, they did say that this was with replayability because, heroes are going to make different choices, but come on. That is a crap ton of RPG cinema just to watch. Not fight, not puzzles, just some D&D narrative goodness. And the main story is like 80 hours of play, and you know darn well that's not exploration and us super nerds who have to look under every rock and check every damn barrel for ill-begotten gain. Larian also said that Act 1 only adds up to 33% of the game's total length, and there is a lot to unpack in Act 1 during early access. And that's not including any changes that may have been made before release. What I'm trying to get at here is that Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be a heavyweight in the RPG fight game. Story, hero development, builds, multi-classing, puzzles, traps, crafting, alchemy, custom crafted origin stories, the ability to play as a fucking bad guy, sex with Shadowheart. Shit, I lost my train of thought. Let's just move on. Okay, I suppose I can cover my opinion on the drama surrounding Baldur's Gate 3, and this may come off a little harsh. I don't give that squirrel's nut what some dude on Twitter said. Fact of the matter is, there's always going to be people at the top of the hill, man, and there's always going to be that asshole at the bottom who is bitter and angry. Fun and expectation are subjective. The stuff I'm hyped about, my wife thinks is stupid, and that's just life. You want people to buy your game? Make it not suck. And as Forrest Gump once said,
that's all I have to say about that.
I love the 5e system. It's plug and play D&D with friends, and I can't wait to unpack this game and play with my playgroup. Just 80 hours of trying to throw my buddies off of any cliff they get near is gonna be awesome. Split screen for the couch companions, voting dialogue when in a conversation with an NPC. Guys, this is gonna be badass on a whole new level of play with your friends fun. Tripping around Baldur's Gate in a story-driven, character-progressive RPG where I'm in control of a fantasy party of 5th edition crafted heroes sounds amazing. And yeah, I was skeptical at first. I love isometric RPGs. Hell, Pillars of Eternity is one of my favorite games, even more so than Divinity Original Sin. But I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to sink the RPG battleship, man. It promises a whole mess of RPG badassitude, and if they're lying and it's a T-posing simulator and half the shit they said would be in the game is missing, I'll gladly make a video telling the world the game is trash. But I don't think it's going to play out like that. I think we are on the cusp of one of the greatest video games of our age. With that out of the way, I want to talk about ability scores, in particular, racial ability scores. Larian has decided to implement a variant rule from the Tasha's Cauldron D&D book, which says, whatever D&D race you choose for your character, you get a trait called Ability Score Increase. This increase reflects an archetypal bit of excellence in the adventurers of this kind in D&D's past. For example, if you're a dwarf, your constitution increases by 2, because dwarf heroes in D&D are often exceptionally tough. This increase doesn't apply to every dwarf, just dwarf adventurers, and it exists to reinforce an archetype. That reinforcement is appropriate if you want to lean into that archetype, but it is unhelpful if your character doesn't conform to the archetype. If you'd like your character to follow their own path, you may ignore your ability score increase trait and assign ability score increases tailored to your character. Here's how to do it. Take any ability score increase you gain in your race or subrace and apply it to an ability score of your choice. If you gain more than one increase, you can't apply these increases to the same ability score, and you can't increase a score above 20. For example, if the ability score increase trait for your race or subrace increases your constitution by 2 and your wisdom by 1, you could instead increase your intelligence by 2 and your charisma by 1. I'm gonna be honest here, I hate how this is written, but I see what they're shooting for. This variant is in place because they want fun to trump rules. Now, in the case of Baldur's Gate 3, Larian is the dungeon master and has said this is how they are doing ability scores. But I have some concerns. But I also don't holistically disagree nor agree with this rule being implemented into Baldur's Gate 3. Let me explain. Let's start with why I'm okay with it. I like this rule as an option because it allows for ultimate character versatility. I play D&D 5e on the weekends, and I have a friend who is notorious for enjoying playing weird shit. But he is an incredible role player, so he usually gets the green light to play whatever he wants. So when he writes up a 15-page backstory narrative, from his hero's adolescence all the way to why his character is at the starting line for where the adventure begins, with the request that his hero's ability scores be different than the racial norms, because he has established this within his character's backstory, and he has a desire to explore a new avenue for playing an intelligence-based halfling who is obsessed with arcana and lore, I'm prone to tell him that this is an amazing hero idea, and then we play D&D. In this instance, his effort towards the hero he wants to play, his dedication to writing a full-length novelle, and chasing this variant rule for being a halfling with a +2 to intelligence instead of the original +2 to dexterity, it makes sense to me. I want my players to have fun, and in this instance, fun has triumphed over the rules. This variant rule of having a +2 and a +1 to place wherever a player decides allows the player to explore the road untraveled, to be an elven barbarian who is stronger than his kin, a dwarven bard with a silky beard and a silver tongue, a tiefling warlock who is misunderstood and has daddy issues and covers his eyes with his hair. Wait a minute, never mind, that's a bad example, that's normal. This rule offers player agency, allowing you, the player, to decide holistically who your protagonist is, and adjust one factor of the core system in your favor. You now have a hand on the ability score portion of the proficiency plus ability score plus dice roll. Without this rule, you are forced to decide a hero based on their traditional racial scores. If you want good dexterity, be an elf or a halfling. Want a good constitution? Be a dwarf. I like this rule because it offers freedom to the player, and this is a video game, not the D&D table. I like the idea of the player being the exception and not the racial rule. All dwarves can still be a hardy and tough people. The realm of elves can still be graceful and deadly, but the player can break this norm and venture into the freedom of choice, the choice for their character, who just so happens to be the main protagonist in Baldur's Gate 3, to be different, and that's not a bad thing. With all that in mind, let's talk about how this rule is a bad idea. For starters, if Larian is going word for word from Tasha's Cauldron, then one race has just been elevated to the meta race. The half-elf receives a +2 to charisma and a +1 to 2 different ability scores of their choice. If Larian uses the Tasha's rule, they now have a +2 to place anywhere and 2 +1s to place anywhere. No other race in D&D has this option, meaning that the half-elf is now the best race for all classes. So when the build guides begin to hit the internet real soon, you'll be able to just skip to the class section of the video, because the half-elf has the most points, and therefore they are the best, you see. Want to be a fighter? Half-elf. +2 strength, dex, or con, and then shore up the other 2 stats with your +1s. Want to be a cleric? Half-elf. +2 wisdom and a +1 to 2 other stats of your flavor. Plan on multiclassing? Half-elf. +2 primary ability score and 2 +1s to ensure that you're good at the next class you plan to acquire. You get the idea. Now, if Larian has decided that everyone gets a +2 and a +1, half-elves have just been nerfed, because their traditional ability scores, a +2 to charisma and a +1 to 2 different ability scores of your choice, they were the game's most versatile race, allowing the player to ensure that their hero wasn't socially awkward with the +2 to charisma, and allowing them to place their +1s depending on their chosen class, or trim out a charisma-based hero. Now they will start with a +2 to place wherever they please, and only one +1 bonus, meaning that they have sacrificed a +1 for the freedom of choice. And that may sound reasonable, but what did the other races sacrifice? Well, the mountain dwarf traditionally has a +2 to both constitution and strength. Now they do not. This may be in the spirit of balance and equality. This is not true, because regardless of ability score bonuses, the human does not have inherent magic, as the drow does. The halfling can't hellish rebuke or cast darkness simply because they are a halfling, and the tiefling can. Regardless of how hard they try, the dwarf will never be as lucky as the halfling.
I can do this all day.
This rule also steps on the toes of lore and world building. If all racial ability scores are the same, then no race is unique. Dwarves are not a hardy people. Elves are not agile, tieflings don't cry in the corner, and humanity simply coasts into the void of it is whatever they want it to be. In the case of Baldur's Gate 3, why am I presenting this like we're in domestic court? Anyway, Larian is the dungeon master, and they want the freedom of choice. They want fun to triumph over traditional rules. We are all here to have fun. We are all fans of fun. That's why we're here to play a video game and walk the streets of Baldur's Gate to get as close to the Forgotten Realms as possible and have a great adventure. Look, I don't get super hyped for a lot of games because companies have burned me in the past, man. Probably you too. And I agree that we gamers deserve better. Anthem is to date my most hated game. I got robbed and it made me jaded. Larian has shown me that through their production and taking part in their early access, that not all game developers are out to fuck the customer. They have a gem here, like, the Sidorak gem from the Juggernaut, and they're just smashing down bullshit developer walls to hand the player a product that they can be proud of and that I can replay over and over for the next 15 years. And if you couldn't tell, I'm pretty stoked about it. And if you are too, or you think I'm an idiot, let me know in the comments. I guess this video is going to be pretty short and sweet. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to me rant and rave. I'm not accustomed to making videos like this, so again, I'm sorry for the lack of professionalism, and I'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye.